Hey y'all, welcome back to Stephanie's Corner. Today I'm doing a special episode for my history class, and we're talking about James Baldwin's book, The Fire Next Time. I'm going to break down some of the big things he talked about like racism, growing up in Black America, the leaders he met, how people fought for freedom in the 60s, and what I think about racism today. So, let's get into it. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is America's Christian nation contradiction. So, basically, Baldwin calls out America for saying that the Christian nation, as we all know, a place of love, fairness, and doing the right thing. But then also, you know, they be treating black people like a second class citizen. He basically explains how can you say you love God and then turn around and treat people like this? He points out the racism wasn't just random people being rude. It came from schools, churches, the government, police, pretty much, every part of society. And that's what he's calling a contradiction, which I'm not going to lie, that is contradiction. If you have to practice what you preach, you know? Like, if you're not walking the light, if you're not walking the right way and saying all this, but then you're treating people just because they came out with a skin color that something they can't control. It's just contradiction, and I agree with that totally. So, the next thing is about how racism affected his childhood, which I'm not gonna lie, back in the 60s, I would hate to be born in that era. But basically, when Baldwin talks about growing up, you know, he talks about how it really shaped him. He grew up in Harlem where poverty and discrimination was basically normal. He also had a tough home life, especially with his stepdad who was strict because he didn't want the world to break Baldwin, which, yeah, I understand. I feel like if I had kids in that era, yo, they'll be locked up in the house. Like, I would have been like, I don't know what to do. But, yeah, totally get that from a parent's point of view. And when Baldwin got older, he realized that the world already had rules for him just because he was black. Yeah, I'm sure they learned that from a very early age. He couldn't go certain places and could act freely and constantly had to watch his back why he ended up and that's how he ended up into writing. I mean, that's a good. It was basically his way of making sense of everything. That's good for him, Loki. So now we're gonna talk about the leaders he met. The famous people along the way. One of the main people he met was Elijah Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. When Baldwin visited him, they talked about race, religion, and how white America had treated black people. Elijah Muhammad believed that black people should separate themselves from the white society completely. Baldwin misunderstood the anger behind it, but he didn't totally agree with separating. He thought that the only way America would ever get better was if both black and white people actually confronted the truth together. He also met activists, writers, and young leaders in the civil rights movement. And it's interesting because Baldwin, respected everyone's approach. Whether it was peaceful protest, black pride, religion, he believed honesty and facing the truth were the real keys to change. In my opinion, what I think about like Elijah Muhammad, like people separate. I feel like that. I basically feel the same way Baldwin feels because like I feel like we should all like you know do it together. Like we shouldn't be separate. It definitely shouldn't be a separate thing. We shouldn't just move ourselves to make them feel comfortable. Like no, they brought us here, so now let's be here. And let's you know get come together and treat each other like human, not run away from the situation. Cause run away, baby, they gonna keep on doing it. And what happened if they have visitors and stuff in America? Like that's just not gonna be okay. That's just not gonna be okay. Okay, now we're gonna get into the next section. Basically talking about how Black Americans fought for freedom in the 60s. So in the 1960s, things were really changing. Black Americans were just not sitting back anymore. You know, they were organizing, marching, doing sit ins, riding buses through dangerous places, and pushing the voting rights and equality. Now, those two are very important. I mean, we pay our dues, we do taxes, we do all that, and we can't vote. Like, no, ma'am. No way. You can't, no. We live here too. Yeah. Be for the people. We live here too. That's not okay. I mean, some of them own houses as well. Like, you just can't do that. Anyways, yeah, I don't know how they took it away. Anyways, but yeah, like people wanted freedom now, and that's why they was doing the sit-ins, the marchings, the organizing. They knew the law was against them a lot of the time, but they still fought because they were tired of getting treated like they were less human. Baldwin said that this movement was basically a wake-up call to America. I know that's right. He ate with that one. Yeah. So honestly, I feel things have gotten better since Baldwin's time. But we're definitely not done. There's still racism today. We see it in the news: police issues, discrimination, stereotypes, and unfair treatment in schools and jobs. And globally, it's not like racism just disappears. A lot of countries have their own issues with colorism, you know, and how they treat immigrants. So, no, I wouldn't say that we're complete, perfect in harmony yet. But, we're working on it and we're not, I feel like with social media and everything, we're trying to make it not the norm. I don't know. But some people joke about it, like it's funny, but like people were really fighting for their life. It's not lollipops and giggles. Anyways, yeah, and then basically like it still impacts the community. You know, a lot of problems today come from people not understanding each other or being scared of what's different. Which we need to be open. There's different cultures out there. There's different foods, different ways people are. Different um like different cultures do different things that we just think that's abnormal, but that's normal, like to them. And it's nothing like, oh my god, no, like I mean, for real, like stop. In this day and age, you're gonna get canceled. Anyways, but some folks grow up hearing stereotypes and never question them. Plus, things like unequal schools and lack of opportunities just keep making the same problems worse. You know, I think what can help is more honest conversations, better education about history, more diverse leaders, and just people being willing to talk and listen. Baldwin always says the truth is what will set us free. And honestly, I think that was, I think he with the little one too. Anyways, but, you know, All right, y'all. That just wraps up today's episode of Stephanie's Corner. This Baldwin book actually reminds me and you, even though the past was rough, there's still hope, but only if we're willing to face the next truth and actually work together. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.